Hey, ¿qué es la que hay? Mi amigo es Rocky here from SpeakSpanishFaster.com. En el video de hoy vamos a hablar de una pregunta que muchos estudiantes tienen y esa pregunta es ¿qué tipo de español debo aprender? En este video vamos a resolver esta. So in today's video, we are going to tackle the question of which type of Spanish should I learn? I'll be honest, this is one of the most common questions I get from students like you, whether it be from email or here on YouTube, but it's not always asked in the same way. Now, let me give you an example. We recently received a comment from a student named Clevante Morgan. Special shout out to Clevante for watching our videos and commenting. He asked, do you recommend learning an accent based on the majority of people you live around? Do you think that's an absolute must? Because I live in Southern California, but I would rather sound Colombian or Venezuelan, more South American. So as you can see, if you sum up this question, Clevante is really asking which Spanish should he learn, and does he have to just learn the Spanish that he is surrounded by? Now, before I answer this question, please know that I have spent hours thinking about this, and it's difficult because there is really no one size fits all. Everyone is different. So the first thing I want you to think about is how you learned your native language, because not only is that going to help you learn Spanish, but it's also going to help you discover the importance of why you need to choose a certain type of Spanish to learn. I've seen some people recommend that you should just learn standard Spanish, but I don't agree with this because, well, first off, what is standard Spanish? Whose standard Spanish should we learn? Who speaks standard Spanish or even neutral Spanish? The answers to those questions aren't as plain black and white as some people would make you believe, and I'll explain more about what I mean in a second. But really quick, I want you to think about how you learned your native language. Let's say English. Did you learn English in school or did you learn English because you were immersed in it at home? It was a mixture of the two, right? You learned your language from interacting with your parents, kids at daycare, your community, friends, and the way you talk and the words that you use are based on where you are from, the state, the region, the location. Of course, you also received neutral standard inputs from school as you fine-tuned your language abilities, but you didn't only focus on the proper way of speaking. This is why nearly everyone has their own accent and speaks in a way that is unique to them. I speak English differently than you. I speak English differently than my sister, even though we grew up in the same house, same city, went to the same schools, but over time we received different inputs of the language. The thing is, not many people really speak a standard Spanish or even neutral Spanish. I don't care which country you are in, each region of that country will speak Spanish their own way. Some will be more similar than others, but none will be exactly the same. Even in countries like Spain, the motherland of Spanish, people in the north speak much different than people in the south. And even the people that speak a standard neutral Spanish, like news reporters and actors from telenovelas, most of them have to go through speech training so that they can learn to speak with neutral Spanish. And they have to do this so that they can speak a Spanish that appeals to all countries and all the people that will be digesting their TV show or their news report. Learning neutral or proper Spanish to fine-tune your skills is great, just as we learn proper English in schools, but that doesn't mean that's how we talk when we are with our friends. The reason all this is important is because you will find that learning Spanish becomes easier when you can immerse yourself in the language, and it's nearly impossible to immerse yourself in standard Spanish because nobody really speaks that way all the time. It's even difficult to artificially immerse yourself in standard Spanish because that would require you to pretty much watch the news all day. And here's another thing I want you to think about. Remember, when you're learning Spanish, it's not just about speaking. We have two inputs, right? And we have two outputs. We have reading and listening, and then we have speaking and writing. So when we think about what Spanish we should learn, the real reason we even want to pick a Spanish is because we have a desire to speak Spanish in a certain way, with a certain flow, using a certain type of pronunciation and using specific words. But no matter which type of Spanish you choose to learn, reading and writing will really not be affected. And even your listening skills won't be that affected either. By getting a lot of Spanish listening input, your brain will develop the ability to understand the language no matter the type of Spanish you choose. Now, of course, the listening input will affect your speaking output. And at the end of the day, that's why we even care about this question, right? It's all about how we sound when we speak Spanish. When you imagine yourself speaking Spanish, you have a certain vision in your mind, a certain way that you see yourself sounding. Nobody else can see that vision except you, so you have to prioritize the type of Spanish you learn that will get you to that goal. So now we can finally get to the answer of the question, which Spanish should you learn? Well, if you haven't found out by now, the only answer to that question is that you have to be the one to make that decision, because the right answer to this question is subjective. Now, while I can't tell you which one to learn, I can give you some advice that can help you make that decision. First, you should think about why you want to learn Spanish. For me, it was to be able to go to Puerto Rico and not get made fun of. For me, it was to be able to fit in with my family and my friends. So that led me to really dial in and learn Puerto Rican Spanish and even Dominican Spanish. The next thing you should take into account is your location. And many times your location will be the reason why you want to learn Spanish. If you're somewhere where there are a lot of Mexicans and you have Mexican friends, then maybe you should learn Mexican Spanish. Do you love going to Spain? Maybe you should learn Spain Spanish. Is your girlfriend from Argentina? Maybe you should learn Argentinian Spanish. I have a friend that used to play soccer 3 to 5 times a week with Mexicans. His best friends were Mexicans. His girlfriend was Mexican. When he really took learning Spanish seriously, guess which type of Spanish he wanted to learn? Mexican Spanish. He now speaks Spanish just like a Mexican, and every year he goes to Mexico with his wife to visit her family. He said that he wouldn't trade his Spanish accent, his Mexican accent, for any other accent. As you can see, it is now a part of him. It is his identity. Who in their right mind would think it's okay to tell him that the Spanish he learned is wrong? Nobody, right? Here's another amazing comment we received on our YouTube channel. Hey Rocky, I just got through looking at your ads and watching your videos. I am super excited and anxious to start learning to speak and understand Spanish. My boyfriend is Puerto Rican and we have been together for over a year and a half. I am from Hawaii and I would like nothing more than to be able to communicate with him in his native language. Although he does speak some English, I feel that he would be very happy and surprised that I'm interested in learning his native language. Reason for that being is because I remember his aunt sending him a text and he forwarded me the text. I didn't understand it because it was in Spanish, so I had him translate the message. She wrote on the message that she was very happy for him, that he found happiness, but it was sad that I did not speak or understand Spanish. It did sadden me a bit, but it also gave me that boost to want to learn and perfect his native language so that one day I will be able to conversate with him and his aunt fluently in Spanish. I pray hopefully, if God's willing, when all this epidemic that the nation is going through with the COVID-19 virus is settled and over with, him and I will be able to get together again. Thank you for this opportunity. Don't you see why the type of Spanish you learn is all based on you? That type of desire that Tatiana has is the desire that will lead someone to take the right actions to learn Spanish. She doesn't just want to learn Spanish, she wants to learn the Spanish that her boyfriend speaks, and in this case is Puerto Rican Spanish. Of course, sometimes we have cases like Clevante, who lives in a certain area where people speak Spanish a certain way, but he doesn't want to speak Spanish like them, he wants to speak a different type of Spanish. Or other cases, we have people that don't live around anyone that speaks Spanish, so they just have to learn it on their own. That's completely fine. You can still learn Spanish in any way that you want. The internet has made that easier to do, but at the end of the day, the type of Spanish you choose to learn has to be your decision. But you should know that it will be easier to immerse yourself if you're in a place where Spanish is being spoken, or if you have friends or a significant other that speak Spanish. A lot of times people will go to visit a country and things will just click, and then they'll want to learn Spanish because they love that country, or they will meet someone that they want to communicate with in Spanish. These are great reasons and great motivators to want to learn a type of Spanish. Don't let another person tell you, even if it's a native Spanish speaker, don't let them tell you that the Spanish you choose to learn is wrong or stupid. Again, that's subjective. The last thing that I'll say regarding this is don't try to learn multiple types of Spanish at once, okay? Don't try to learn Spain Spanish and Puerto Rican Spanish at the same time. It will lead to too much confusion and too much thinking. Remember though, neutral Spanish doesn't fall into that category. It's still okay to receive neutral inputs, whether that be from the news or school or programs, but you also need to be immersing yourself in a type of Spanish as much as you can. Again, whether that's having having friends, going to a country, or doing so artificially. So as you think about which Spanish you want to learn, I want to talk a little bit about why the type of Spanish you learn is so important. The type of Spanish you learn helps you build your Spanish identity, just like my friend that learned Mexican Spanish. Recently, I was watching an interview with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. These guys are two NBA players that were giving an interview in Spanish in Mexico. Now, of course, they were both speaking Spanish. They both know Spanish and they speak it very, very well. And that's because they played professionally in Spain before coming to the NBA. I thought it was cool to look in the comments and to see how people were identifying these NBA players and their personalities through their Spanish. In other words, these NBA players had built their Spanish identities or Spanish character. I remember one comment said something like, their accent and intonation is Castilian Spanish. According to their personalities, Kristaps is more articulated and eloquent than Luka, who is less expressive, but both of them speak perfectly like native Spaniards. Now, the reason that happens is because they were immersed in Spain's Spanish and they built their Spanish identity from that. In his book Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about how in order to reach a goal, you have to go through an identity change and develop habits that will validate that identity change. When you have a real reason to want to learn Spanish and you choose to make that identity change, it will make it much easier to do what it takes to learn Spanish. That is, to build the Spanish learning habits and remain consistent with them. Those things will only be built if you have a deep desire and passion to learn Spanish, and usually that desire comes from the emotional connection with the language, and that connection can only be built through inner and or outer experiences. So once you find the Spanish that you want to learn, maybe go to that country, even for a few days, and see how the people live, meet new friends, build new connections, build experiences that will help you build that desire and help you remain consistent with learning Spanish. So yes, you should learn a certain type of Spanish, but that Spanish has to be one that you want to learn. Don't let anyone else affect which Spanish you choose to learn. There is no right or wrong type of Spanish. Spanish is a beautiful language. In fact, that's one thing that makes Spanish so beautiful. It can be found all over the world, and there are so many different varieties of it. So someone from Peru, all the way in Peru, can travel all the way to Spain and still be able to communicate with the people in Spain, because at the end of the day, they both speak Spanish. They both speak the same language. It's important to know that no matter which type of Spanish you learn, no matter which type of Spanish you speak, you will be able to communicate with other Spanish speakers from any country. So build your Spanish speaking identity and keep working on your Spanish. If you found this video helpful and you're looking to take your Spanish to the next level, I have a free training for you where I reveal my 3 biggest secrets to learn Spanish easier and faster. Just click the link in the comments and that will take you right to our page on our website, speakspanishfaster.com. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to click the like button, comment below if you have any question. Last but not least, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Turn on notifications so you never miss another video. Until next time, I will see you then.